The arrival. The night was quiet. The forest slept under the dark sky, and only the sound of crickets filled the air. Jake sat on the small porch of his wooden cabin drinking coffee. He lived alone, far from the town. People called him strange, but Jake liked silence. After the war, he needed peace. Suddenly, a loud sound broke the stillness of the night. Boom! The ground shook. Birds flew from the trees and animals ran. Jake stood up quickly. He looked toward the forest. A red light flashed deep between the trees. It was like something had fallen from the sky. A plane crash? Jake whispered to himself. He grabbed his flashlight and his old rifle. His soldier instincts returned. Carefully, he walked into the forest, following the smoke in the air. The trees were thick, and the air smelled like something burning. After 10 minutes of walking, he found something strange. It was not a plane. It was a ship. Small, silver, and broken. Pieces of metal were everywhere. The ground was black from the fire. Jake moved slowly. His heart beat fast. This was not from Earth. He knew it. Then, he heard a soft sound. Like someone crying. He turned to the left and moved the flashlight slowly. Behind a tree, something small was hiding. Not human. Big black eyes, gray skin, and thin arms. It was a child. An alien. Jake lowered his gun. The child was shaking, afraid. Its eyes were full of tears. "It's okay," Jake said in a soft voice. "I won't hurt you." The child looked at him, then pointed to the fire. Jake followed its hand. Near the wreckage, something was lying on the ground. It was another alien, a female. She was badly hurt, blood on her side. Her breathing was weak. Jake ran to her. She opened her eyes for a second, looked at Jake, and then closed them again. He looked back at the child. The child had followed him, and now sat beside its mother, holding her hand. Jake looked around. No one else, no help. The crash was deep in the forest. Nobody would find them. "I can't leave them here," he said. He took off his jacket and gently covered the alien woman. Then he lifted her carefully. She was light, but cold. The child followed him, walking close. They reached his cabin after 20 long minutes. Jake placed the mother on his bed. He used his old medical kit. He didn't know alien biology, but he cleaned the wound and stopped the bleeding. The child sat on the floor, watching him. Still silent, still scared. Jake gave him a blanket and some water. The child didn't drink, just stared at the mother. Hours passed. The woman slept. The child didn't move. Jake looked at them. He had so many questions. Who were they? Why were they here? What happened? He sat near the window and checked his radio. Suddenly it beeped. Unit 3 reporting. Unidentified object crashed near Sector 9. Sending team to investigate. Orders. Recover or eliminate. Jake's eyes went wide. Recover or eliminate? They were already searching. Whoever these people were, they didn't sound friendly. He looked at the child again. The child looked back, eyes full of fear. "Don't worry," Jake said softly. "They won't find you, not tonight." Outside in the distance, he saw lights moving in the sky. Helicopters, fast and loud. He turned off all lights inside the cabin and locked the door. He sat near the alien mother. Her breathing was still, weak, but better. The child finally lay beside her and closed its eyes. Jake whispered to himself, "What have I gotten into?" The night returned to silence, but the danger was just beginning. Far away in the dark sky, a black ship floated above the clouds, watching, waiting. And inside, a voice said, "Find the child, no matter the cost." The hidden past, the forest, was quiet again, but not peaceful. Inside Jake's small cabin, the air felt heavy. The alien child slept beside his mother, curled up like a scared animal. Jake didn't sleep. He sat on a chair with his rifle beside him, eyes locked on the door, ears sharp for every sound outside. His mind was racing. Who were they? Where did they come from? And why was someone already hunting them? Just before dawn, Jake heard a sound. A soft click, then a buzz. He stood up quickly, pointing his flashlight toward the alien woman. She was awake. Her large silver eyes looked at him not with fear, but with pain. Not physical pain, a deep sadness. Jake moved closer. "You're safe," he said. "You crashed. Your ship. It's gone. You were hurt." The alien mother tried to speak, but her lips did not move. Instead, a faint blue light blinked near her neck. A small metal device was attached to her skin. It hummed, and then Jake heard a voice in his mind. Not loud, not clear, but full of emotion. "We ran. They followed. My child must live." Jake stepped back. His heart raced. "You can speak inside my head?" The alien woman nodded weakly. Then something happened. The child opened his eyes and touched a glowing crystal hanging around his neck. The cabin changed, just for a moment. Jake wasn't in the room anymore. He was standing in a different world, not Earth. The sky was purple, and strange mountains floated in the air. Alien cities full of light and peace stretched across the land. It was beautiful. Then the vision changed. Fire, screams, ships falling from the sky. Tall black creatures with red eyes marched across the land, destroying everything. At the center stood a tall, powerful alien in dark armor, face hidden by a metal mask. He held a red energy blade and gave one command: "Kill the bloodline. Leave none." The vision ended. Jake was back in his cabin, breathing fast, sweat on his face. What was that? The alien mother's voice returned in his mind. "My people were peaceful. We never fought. We lived far away. But the warlord came. He wanted control. My child is the last of our kind." Jake looked at the boy. The child sat silently, eyes down, holding his crystal tightly. "Why is he after you? The child is just a kid." The woman spoke again. "The child carries the old power. It lives in his blood. If he lives, our people live. If he dies, hope dies too." Jake now understood. This was not just about aliens. This was about survival, about genocide. This child was not just a refugee. He was a target. Suddenly, a sharp sound cut the silence. Click. Whir. Jake turned. His radio was lighting up again, even though he had turned it off. Scanning sector now. Heat signatures found. Send ground. Team. They were close, maybe just minutes away. Jake stood up fast. "We need to leave. Now." He quickly packed some supplies: food, water, old maps. He wrapped the woman in a blanket, lifted her onto a wooden sled he had behind the cabin, and covered her with a tarp. The child followed, carrying nothing but his small crystal. Outside, the sky was still dark, but in the distance, lights were moving. Search drones. Jake pulled the sled into the forest. They had to go deeper. Somewhere even he had never explored. As they moved, the ground under them became wet and soft. They were entering the swamp zone full of old trees, broken ground, and hidden caves. It was risky, but it was the only way. After an hour of walking, they found an old shelter, half covered by earth built by hunters long ago. Jake used branches to cover the entrance. Inside, they rested. The mother was weak again. The child sat beside her, eyes watching every shadow. Jake sat opposite them and took out his old military tablet. It still had working satellite images. As he zoomed in, his heart stopped. A black ship was landing near his cabin. Soldiers in strange armor stepped out. Not human. Their bodies were tall, their skin dark and rough. Red lights blinked on their helmets. And behind them walked the warlord. He was real, not just a vision. Jake clenched his fists. They're not just searching. They're hunting. He turned to the mother. "We need to move again, but first, I need to know something." He looked straight at her. "Can your son control this power? Can he protect himself?" She looked at the boy, then at Jake. "Not yet. But with time, yes. Jake nodded slowly. Then I'll buy him that time. Outside, thunder rolled in. The sky. Rain began to fall, but something more dangerous was coming, and Jake knew. This was only the beginning. The chase begins. The rain fell hard. Thunder cracked above the trees as Jake crouched by the entrance of the hidden shelter, staring into the storm. Water dripped from his hair, but he didn't care. His eyes searched the shadows. Every flash of lightning revealed more of the forest and more danger. He knew they were coming. Inside the shelter, the alien mother lay quiet, her breathing shallow. Her energy was fading again. The boy sat beside her, arms around his knees, silent. His crystal glowed faintly in the dark like a heartbeat. Jake turned back and stepped inside. "We can't stay," he said in a low voice. "They're sweeping the forest. Sooner or later, they'll find this place." The child looked at him, eyes wide with fear but also trust. Jake sighed. He was used to being alone. He never wanted to protect anyone again, not after the war, not after he failed his own unit. But this was different. This child hadn't asked for war. Jake touched the mother's shoulder. Her skin was cold. "She won't survive another run like this unless we find shelter. Real shelter." He opened his map. Only one place came to mind. An old abandoned mine deep in the mountains. No one went there. It was cold, dark, and full of dangers. But it was hidden. Secure. He looked at the boy. "We're going to the mine. It's a long walk. You'll have to be brave." The child nodded slowly. Jake wrapped the woman again and tied her to the sled. Then they moved, into the rain, into the unknown. Far behind them, the hunt had already begun. Black-armored soldiers moved silently through the trees. Their steps made no sound. They held energy weapons that hummed faintly. One of them stopped and placed a small machine on the ground. It blinked blue. A voice came from its speaker. "Organic trail confirmed. Human, and 2 alien life forms." The leader of the group stepped forward. His helmet split open, revealing sharp black eyes and a scar running down his cheek. His name was Commander Sareth, second to the warlord himself. He looked toward the forest. "Bring them to me," he said coldly. "Alive, if possible." Then he vanished into the shadows. Back in the forest, Jake pulled the sled over roots and mud. His boots were soaked. Every muscle in his body ached, but he kept going. The boy walked close behind him, not saying a word. Suddenly, a buzzing sound broke the silence. Jake stopped, listened. The boy pointed upward. A small drone flew above the trees, silent, silver, scanning. Jake acted fast. He dropped to the ground and pulled the child with him. The drone hovered, scanned, then moved on. Jake whispered, "We don't have much time." They kept moving faster now. Finally, as the rain began to slow, they reached the edge of a steep hill. Below it, hidden by rocks and vines, was the entrance to the old mine. Jake moved the rocks and opened the gate. It creaked. Cold air blew from inside. He brought the alien mother in first, laying her down on old blankets. Then he lit a small fire using dry wood from his emergency kit. Inside the mine, it was dark but dry. Safe, for now. Jake turned to the child. "We rest here. Tomorrow I'll block the entrance. But tonight, we listen. If you hear anything, you wake me." The child nodded. Jake finally sat down, letting himself breathe. He watched the fire flicker. For a moment, there was silence. Then something unexpected happened. The boy stood up, walked to Jake, and placed his glowing crystal in Jake's hand. Jake looked confused. The boy spoke in a soft, broken voice. "You, protector." Jake stared at the child. He hadn't spoken before, not once, but now he had. A strange warmth filled Jake's chest. Maybe for the first time in years. He had a reason to fight again. He nodded. "Yeah, I'm your protector." Outside, the drone returned to Commander Sareth. "Signal lost in mountain region. Possible cave system nearby." Sareth's eyes narrowed. No more hiding. He raised his arm. A dark beacon shot into the sky, glowing red. The warlord, watching from his ship high above, smiled behind his mask. The child is close. Begin the purge. Inside the mine, Jake sat awake, gun in hand. He didn't know what was coming next. He didn't know how much time they had, but he knew this. He would not let them take that child. Not while he was still breathing. Secrets of the alien tech. The mine was dark and cold. Inside, Jake sat near the fire, watching the flames dance. His eyes were heavy, but his mind was wide awake. The wind outside howled through the rocks like the earth was warning him. Danger is near. The alien mother still slept. Her body was weak, her skin pale. Jake had done everything he could, but it wasn't enough. He looked at the boy who sat across from him with his small crystal glowing in his hands. Jake sighed. We need help. Something more than just hiding. The boy tilted his head and slowly stood up. He walked to his mother, knelt beside her, and placed the glowing crystal on her chest. The light began to spread, slow at first, then brighter. The crystal pulsed like a living heart. Jake stood quickly. What's happening? The boy didn't answer. His eyes were locked on the light. Suddenly, the mine's walls lit up. Strange symbols appeared, floating in the air. Alien writing, glowing softly. The stone itself responded to the crystal as if it recognized it. Jake backed away, stunned. The crystal rose into the air and hovered. A soft hum filled the mine. Then, from the crystal, a projection appeared. A full map of the galaxy with a small blue dot flashing. Jake pointed at it. That's Earth. The boy nodded. Then the map zoomed in. Planets vanished. Only one remained, the boy's homeworld, beautiful, green, full of light. Then, fire, war, ships exploded in the sky. The same dark army, the same warlord. The child closed his eyes and the image faded. Jake stepped forward. That crystal, it's not just a map, is it? The boy looked at him, then touched the crystal again. A new projection appeared. A memory. The alien mother stood in a white room, holding the boy. Behind her, a group of elders spoke in a strange language. One handed her the crystal and placed it on the child's chest. This carries the heart code, the voice echoed in Jake's mind. He is the last bearer. He must be protected. The vision ended. Jake was speechless. He looked at the boy with wide eyes. This heart code, it's inside you? The boy nodded. Then he touched Jake's hand and shared a new memory. This time it was a weapon. Not like human weapons. It was a living shield, made of energy that responded to thought. It could heal, protect, or destroy. The child didn't know how to use it yet, but he carried the blueprint inside him. Jake realized the truth. The child wasn't just important. He was powerful. If the enemy got their hands on him, they wouldn't just kill him. They would use him. That night, the wind grew louder. Jake blocked the mine's entrance with rocks and branches. He set traps, silent alarms made from cans and wires. Then he returned to the fire. But something felt off. The boy was looking up. His crystal was glowing brighter. Jake asked, "What is it?" The boy pointed up. "They're here." Jake's blood ran cold. He rushed to the entrance and listened. Footsteps. Slow, heavy, metal on stone. They had found the mine. Not many. Just 2 scouts. Testing the area. Jake whispered to the boy, "Stay hidden. Don't move. No matter what." He moved through the shadows, rifle in hand. As the first soldier entered the cave, Jake struck from behind. Quick, clean, silent. The body fell without a sound. The second one turned, but Jake was faster. 2 enemies down. But Jake knew this was only the start. He dragged the bodies into the deep part of the cave and took their tech. Small alien devices, one shaped like a cube, the other like a bracelet. He brought them to the fire. The boy looked at them, then picked up the light bracelet. It lit up in his hand. The metal unfolded, changing shape, wrapping around his wrist. Jake stepped back. Is it safe? The boy nodded. Then something incredible happened. The bracelet scanned the boy's skin. A light passed through his arm and chest. It beeped, then displayed symbols in the air. Coded language, fast-moving. Jake didn't understand, but the boy did. He touched the symbols and a light covered his hand. A small shield appeared, hovering. Jake was amazed. You're learning to use it. The boy smiled for the first time. But the moment was short. Outside the mine, a loud blast shook the earth. Dust fell from the ceiling. They were blowing the entrance. Jake ran to the front. The air smelled like plasma. He turned to the boy. We fight now, or we die. The alien mother opened her eyes. She whispered in Jake's mind, protect him, at all costs. Jake loaded his rifle. He placed the small alien cube in his pocket and gave the boy the last of their food and water. If anything happens to me, he said, you run. Use the crystal, find help. The boy tried to speak, but Jake stopped him. You have something more important than me. You carry the future. Behind them, the mine exploded. Rocks fell. Light poured in, and from the smoke, dark figures entered, not human, not alive. The warlord had arrived. Battle in the forest. The mine shook like thunder had hit it. Rocks fell from the ceiling, dust filled the air. The entrance had exploded open. Light from enemy weapons lit the dark cave with flickering red and blue. Jake didn't wait. Move, he shouted, grabbing the boy's hand. Behind them, the alien mother lay still, her eyes half open, her body too weak to move. She looked at her son one last time and nodded. Her voice entered Jake's mind one final time. Run. Save him. Jake pulled the boy out through a narrow tunnel in the back of the mine, a path he had noticed earlier. It led out into the thick forest, steep and wild. They climbed fast, slipping on the wet rocks. Behind them, enemy voices echoed through the tunnels. The warlord's army was inside, and they would not stop. As they reached the outside, morning light broke through the trees. The forest was alive with wind and mist. Birds flew overhead, frightened. Jake didn't stop running until they reached a high ridge. There he stopped and looked back. Smoke was rising from the mountain. The mine had become a battleground, but this was only the beginning. He turned to the boy. They'll follow us now. We need to slow them down. The boy nodded. His crystal was glowing again, brighter than ever. The strange bracelet on his arm pulsed with energy. Jake had a plan. He knew this part of the forest well. Years ago, he had trained here, alone, forgotten by the world. Now he would use everything he knew. He and the boy set up traps. Old military tricks. Tripwires made from vines. Hidden spikes. Explosive powder from alien tech scavenged earlier. And something new. The boy's crystal could power small energy bursts. Jake helped him place them along the path, turning the forest into a maze of danger. Then they waited. It didn't take long. The first wave came, 3 black-armored soldiers scanning the forest with red lights. Jake watched from a tree above. He waited. Snap. Boom. The first trap exploded under their feet. One soldier flew backward, crashing into a rock. The others raised weapons, but another blast hit them from behind. The boy stood at the center of the trap zone, holding the crystal up. A shield formed around him as plasma fire rained down. Jake dropped from the tree and fought with speed and power. He moved like a ghost, knife in one hand, rifle in the other. He wasn't just fighting for survival. He was fighting for someone who still believed in him. More soldiers came. A second wave. Bigger. Faster. Their leader shouted in a strange tongue. Jake and the boy ran deeper into the woods. The boy turned and raised his hand. His crystal fired a wave of blue light. It pushed the trees apart like wind and knocked enemies to the ground. But the boy fell to his knees. His nose bled. He wasn't ready to use that kind of power. Jake picked him up. Not yet, he said. You're strong, but don't burn out. We still need you." They reached an old bridge above a canyon. Jake had set explosives on its ropes. They ran across. Just as enemy walkers entered the clearing behind them, Jake turned, aimed at the detonator, and paused. He saw something that made his blood freeze. At the front of the enemy line stood the warlord, tall, armored in black metal, his face hidden behind a smooth, silver mask. His eyes glowed red behind the glass. He raised one hand, and everything stopped, even the wind. Jake's finger hesitated on the trigger. His breath slowed. The warlord wasn't just a soldier, he was something else. A being of power, of fear. But then Jake looked at the boy beside him, and he remembered. He pressed the button. The bridge exploded in fire and smoke. The entire structure collapsed, falling into the canyon below. Jake and the boy escaped into the trees, but they knew the fight wasn't over. Later, they found a small cave near a river and rested. Jake's body was bruised, his leg bleeding, but he didn't care. He looked at the boy. The child was asleep, his arms wrapped around the crystal. Jake whispered, "We bought some time, that's all." He looked up at the sky, now dark again, and he asked himself the question that had been burning in his chest. Can we really win this? Far away, inside his warship, the warlord stood still. He looked at a projection of the child. Behind his mask, he smiled. "The child has awakened," he said. "Good, let him run, let him fight. When he is ready, I will take him." The hunt was far from over. The true battle was just beginning. The decision. The fire cracked softly in the small riverside cave. Jake sat beside it, sharpening a knife slowly, his leg wrapped in cloth and still bleeding. Across from him, the alien boy slept quietly, his crystal dim for now, like a heart that needed rest. Outside, the night whispered through the trees. The river flowed gently nearby, peaceful on the surface. But Jake knew the truth. They were being hunted, and time was running out. The warlord's forces had stopped chasing for now, but Jake could feel it in his gut. It was only a pause, not a retreat. He looked at the boy again. There was something different about him now. His face was no longer afraid. It looked older somehow, stronger, like something inside him had started to wake up. Jake leaned back against the cold stone wall and stared at the fire. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from what he knew was coming. A decision. One that would change everything. That night, Jake dreamed. But it didn't feel like a dream. He stood on a battlefield, Earth, but not as he knew it. The sky was black, cities were burning, ships filled the sky. People ran in fear. At the center of it all stood the warlord, and beside him, the boy. But he wasn't a child anymore. He was taller, his eyes glowed, and his face was blank, controlled, like a puppet. Jake shouted, ran toward him, but the ground cracked. Fire rose. He couldn't reach him. The warlord spoke. His voice echoed like thunder. "You cannot protect him. You never could. You are nothing but a delay." Jake woke up gasping for air. Morning came slowly, hidden behind heavy clouds. The boy was already awake, sitting by the water. He had drawn something in the dirt, a symbol. Jake didn't understand it, but it glowed faintly. He sat beside the child. "You okay?" The boy looked at him and nodded. Then he said, "He's calling me. I feel it, in my head." Jake's eyes narrowed. "The warlord." The boy nodded again. "He's waiting." Jake's heart sank. He understood now. The warlord wasn't chasing them anymore, because he didn't have to. He was trying to pull the boy in. Mentally, spiritually, piece by piece. Jake stood and walked away. He needed to think, but no plan came, no strategy, no clear path. Then something happened. The crystal on the boy's chest glowed again, brighter than before. The symbol in the dirt grew larger, and in a flash of blue light, a new vision appeared in the air. A recording. a memory hidden inside the crystal. Jake watched, frozen. The alien mother stood inside a bright chamber, speaking to a group of elders. "This child holds more than the heart code," she said. "He carries the seal of light. If corrupted, it will unlock the final gate." An elder asked, "And if we fail to protect him?" Her voice shook. "Then the warlord will not just destroy worlds. He will become one." The memory ended. Jake dropped to his knees. The boy wasn't just the last of his kind. He was the key to a weapon, a force that could either save the galaxy or destroy it. Later that day, Jake and the boy hiked through thick forest toward an old satellite tower. Jake remembered from his past. It was long dead, broken by time, but it still had something important: a working long-range beacon. "We're going to call for help," Jake said. "There's got to be someone out there, someone who still fights." But halfway up the hill, they stopped. Standing in the path ahead was a figure, the alien mother, alive. She was weak, but standing tall, her eyes glowing faintly. The boy ran to her. "Mother!" She smiled gently and placed her hand on his head. Jake was frozen. How? Did you survive?" She looked at him and her voice echoed in his mind. "I stayed hidden until the warlord opened the gate. Now I have little time left." Jake asked the one question he feared most. "Can we stop him?" She looked at her son. "He can. But if the warlord takes him, no one will survive." Then she said something even harder. "We must send the boy away. Alone." Jake stood silent. "No. He's just a child." She shook her head. "He is more than that now. He must go beyond Earth, to the last free world. There his powers will rise. There he will be ready." Jake clenched his fists. His voice cracked. "After everything, you want me to just let him go?" She looked at him with eyes full of sorrow. "You were never meant to keep him, Jake. You were meant to prepare him." That night, Jake sat beside the boy and told him the truth. The boy didn't cry. He didn't argue. He looked at Jake and said, "You showed me kindness when no one else did." Jake couldn't speak. He just nodded and hugged the boy tightly. And in that moment, he realized he wasn't just sending a child away. He was saying goodbye to the only family he had left. The next morning, they reached the satellite beacon. Jake powered it with the alien cube. Lights blinked. The old machine hummed to life. A signal shot into space. One final message. "To any ally out there, we have the child. We need safe passage. He's the last light." They waited. And then, a reply. Coordinates. A ship. Coming. Fast. Jake looked at the boy. "You ready?" The boy nodded. Then Jake looked to the sky. In his heart, he knew this was not the end, but it was the last time he would protect him with his own hands. The final battle was coming, but it would not be fought alone. The final stand. The sky above the mountains turned dark even though it was morning. Clouds twisted unnaturally. Thunder cracked like war drums. And then, without warning, a black ship broke through the clouds, hovering silently above the trees. Like a shadow that swallowed the light, Jake saw it from the satellite tower's hilltop. "They're here," he whispered. Beside him stood the boy, now calm, focused. The glowing crystal on his chest pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. His mother sat quietly under the old beacon, wrapped in a silver cloth. Her body was fading, but her eyes were still full of strength. From the ship, beams of red light fell to the ground. Dozens of black-armored soldiers descended, and behind them a large figure dropped like thunder. The warlord had arrived. He stood taller than all, wrapped in thick dark metal, a silver mask hiding his face, and eyes that burned red like fire. The ground under his feet cracked as he walked. Jake stood in front of the boy and raised his rifle. The warlord didn't flinch. "You delay the end," the warlord said in a voice deep as stone. "You protect the vessel that belongs to me." Jake didn't move. "He doesn't belong to anyone." The warlord turned his head slightly. He is the key, the seed of light. With him, I unlock the gate to godhood. The boy stepped forward, standing beside Jake. His voice was soft but firm. I am not your key. The warlord looked at him for a long moment. You are not ready to fight me. Maybe not, the boy said, but I'm not alone. From above, a flash lit the sky. A sleek alien ship broke through the clouds, blue and silver with markings that matched the boy's crystal. It hovered above the mountain and slowly lowered. Reinforcements. The mother smiled. They heard the call, she whispered. The warlord raised his hand. Too late. He waved and his army charged forward. Jake turned to the boy. Stay back. Then he ran into the field. The battle began. Jake fought like a man with nothing left to lose. He used every trap, every tactic. Trees burned, the ground shook, fire filled the air. Alien weapons clashed with raw energy. But the soldiers kept coming. For everyone he took down, 2 more appeared. Jake was thrown back, bleeding, body broken, but he crawled to his feet. He looked up and saw the warlord walking toward the boy, untouched by the battle. The boy stood still, crystal glowing brighter and brighter. The mother called out weakly, Son, remember who you are. The boy closed his eyes, and then he opened them, glowing with blue fire. A burst of light exploded from the crystal. The ground shook, trees bent, soldiers flew backward like leaves in the wind. The boy rose into the air, floating slightly, arms out. Symbols lit up around him, ancient energy from a time before war. His eyes no longer showed fear, only purpose. The warlord paused. So, you awaken. He raised his hand, drawing in black energy. A sword of shadows formed in his palm. The boy answered with a wave of his own hand. A shield of light appeared, one made of memory, hope, and everything lost. The 2 forces clashed. Light against shadow, past against future. The sky turned white. Jake, crawling from the edge of the battlefield, watched in awe. The boy moved like a storm, but his body trembled. He wasn't ready to hold this much power, not yet. The warlord struck again, harder. The boy screamed, falling to one knee. Jake stood. He ran, throwing himself between them as the warlord charged. The warlord's blade pierced Jake's side. But he didn't fall. He held on. With blood in his mouth, he whispered to the boy, Now, finish it. The boy stood again. His mother's voice echoed in his mind. You are the last light. Become the fire. The crystal on his chest cracked, then burst into pure white energy. The warlord swung again, but the blade met nothing. The boy raised his hand. A single word echoed in the air. End. And the light swallowed the battlefield. When the light faded, only wind remained. The warlord was gone, erased from time. His army vanished like smoke. Jake lay on the ground, eyes open to the sky. The boy rushed to him, kneeling beside him, holding his hand. I'm sorry, the boy said, crying. Jake smiled weakly. No, you made it. That's all that matters. You saved me, the boy said. Jake shook his head. You saved everyone. Then he closed his eyes, and the forest was silent. Later, the alien ship landed gently beside the ruins. The boy stepped onto the ramp, his mother's hand in his. She was still alive, barely, but her eyes were full of peace. The ship's door closed, and for the first time the stars opened to a future. Years passed. In a quiet corner of the galaxy, a new world rose. Peaceful, beautiful, full of life. The boy, now a young leader, stood before a crowd. A statue behind him showed a man with a rifle standing tall, looking into the stars. Jake. The boy looked up. I carry your name now, he whispered, and I will protect others, just like you protected me. And the light lived on, forever.